I've got a hold of it, come through here. I move around, position here, and I'm on a 2, 3, and I move and present my weapon and bring that into the fight. So this is a concept I'm quite passionate about. It's a combination or integration between guns, knives, and empty hands. So I call it close quarter force integration tactics. And essentially it's knife tactics for gunfighters.
Knife tactics for gunfighters.
Yep.
Can you give us an example of what that curriculum might look like?
Yeah, so there's two ways that this goes. So one is using knife movement and principles, knife fighting movements and principles with a gun in the hand, or implementing the gun. And that's based on the principles of angling, movement, footwork, mobility, controlling distance, but also working from the contact distance clinch ranges. And what I mean by that is, for example, if I've got a lot of times when we're dealing with knife tactics in close ranges, when you get those clinch ranges, we've got different positions that we try and solve. One of those would be what we call a stalemate position. And a stalemate position would be if for example, if someone's presented an edge weapon and I was able to defend against that somehow in some shape or form, and I've got to hold their arm, and now I look to get my weapon, present my weapon, and get that into the fight. Well, he wants to survive too, right? And so a lot of times you end in these what we call stalemate positions. And now I've got a hold of his weapon, he's got a hold of my weapon, and we're trying to see who can get free first. So immediately, one of the tactics that I would use for this, which comes from knife fighting, is the duck under. Come through here, and I move around, and I'm addressing the target from this position. Okay, that's one example of a knife tactic for gunfighting.
Get another one?
Yeah, so another example is, being able to, if I don't have my weapon in my hand and I need to bring it to bear, and maybe we're somehow tied up in this position, and so now I need to be able to present or free my right hand. I don't want to release his weapon also, so from this clinch range. So here I can do what we call an arm drag motion, and essentially it's done quick, but what I'm doing is he's got an edge weapon here, so I'm trying to control that. I'm basically doing an arm drag while controlling that. As soon as I've done that, my right hand is still tied up, so I do a quick transition to this position here, and I continue moving forward, get my weapon out, and address whichever target is available. Being careful not to cover my arm, so we use this C motion here. So again, it's just another example of close range, extreme close range knife fighting tactics for gunfighting. Now as you get further out, another example of what we would do here is in our Kali footwork, we're constantly using angles. I'm going this direction, going this direction, moving different directions because I'm trying to avoid getting hit and I want to present my weapon. So if I had a weapon in my hand, I'm moving this direction here, I'm moving this direction and cutting here. So as this applies to a little further distance, if I've got an aggressor that's coming towards me and he comes out with a knife, then I might want to move offline using my angular footwork and present distance, get my weapon to bear. If it's a little closer, for example, that would be a common knife defense movement. So as the knife comes in, I tap and I hack. Okay, so I may use that opportunity instead of going 1, 2, 3 into some kind of a disarm or whatnot. I've got a gun. I want to bring that into the fight. So now I'm going to do that 1, 2, 3, and I move and present my weapon and bring that into the fight. Now that same motion can be used to 1, 2, 3 and push, and then bring the weapon and what we call engage versus disengage. So I can engage the subject based on the distance that I have. If it's an open space, disengage, give him distance. If he's got a gun and not a knife, I can't give him distance. I can't outrun his bullets, so I have to engage, control his ability to shoot me and bring my weapon into the fight. Again, all these knife tactics presented to a gunfighting environment.
So knife tactics for gunfighters, this sounds like this can be an ongoing thing. This curriculum seems quite deep.
It is. We're just kind of scratching the surface here. It gets really deep because you can start from distances just outside of arm's reach, because this is all close quarter stuff where most gunfights happen, extreme close quarters. We're starting just outside of 2 arms reach, and then we're progressively moving into clinch distance. That clinch distance sometimes ends on the ground fighting with the guns and knives, and then kind of progressing from there. Various steps in that process. When he's just getting his weapon out and I'm able to catch it, how do I disrupt that draw stroke? Maybe his weapon is coming to bear and it's not yet pointed at me. Is it an edge weapon? Is it a firearm? Do I know what kind of weapon it is? So there's all these different ways that you can approach this topic and get into a lot of depth with it.
Well, thank you very much. We're honored by your presence here, and thank you very much for sharing your
Thanks,
knowledge.
guys. Stay tuned. Look forward to a lot of cool things coming up.